Gone to that, I've got 2 hours. Yeah, it should do. Looks well enough lit. Yeah, we'll be fine. A lot of pea on a leaf in the middle.
Got any portraits on the go? Well, you're collecting your nationals already.
So actually, I've just gone online with them.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of really good articles in there. I tell you, if they put a telly page in there, they'll do fine. They'll do better.
I'll find it, so I won't use it.
No, that'll be fine. Pardon me.
That's yours. That's why it's not working. Fuck with them on the phone.
I'm about to.
Get through them.
I'll phone it.
I'm about to buy a new. I'm going to buy a phone, right? Not contract, and put it on gift gaff. Because this is both my children here in Edinburgh telling me that's the way to go.
Gift gaff, I don't know what that is. Honest telling me you can
It's
get
not a
these.
contract. And for £12 a month, you get all the digital data. It's 4G. You get all the digital data you need, all the text and all the phone calls. So, yeah.
And on it says you can buy one of these. I don't know if it's a green phone or something phone. I don't know. Just get lost with all these.
I shall give it a go.
Well, my laddie appears to have decided that all my peripheral stuff's his peripheral stuff. So I've got a Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and a fucking USB mouse. Right, I've got one each. Not now, I haven't. Now they're in fucking London.
What?
So this morning I got to fire this up, which I never use. Can't find it, so I phoned him up. I said, Rory. And I've just discovered my mini fucking tripod's not there.
Yeah.
Rory, you seen any of the mouses? And do you borrow them or that? He went, mouses? What mouses? For the laptop. The laptop's fucked. I says, well, the laptop's not fucked. I'm using it. I said, have you got all the mouses? He went, well, I've got the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi. Oh, and I took the other one just in case. I went, you've got an Apple fucking laptop.
Yeah, what does he need them for?
They're no fucking use to you. It's like, oh well, I just in case.
Oh, it didn't occur to him that you might.
So I can't operate any of my fucking devices.
I take it is. Did you tell them to post them back?
I told them to bring them back when you come back. They're actually all pretty ancient.
Well, as long as they work. Well, that's what kids are for. They look at you puzzled when you don't just roll over to do what they want.
No, I treat my children like they treat me.
What, with contempt?
No. I mean, what's theirs is mine. Because when they grow up, they've had this attitude that what's mine is theirs, like that.
Yeah.
I thought once they've grown up and they go away and they come back and they leave stuff, they stay with me for 6 months and then move out. Whatever they leave behind is mine.
Or they can only find half it when they go in it.
You'll do. That looks quite interesting. That. Hopefully that'll be okay. It's running.
Right, we ready to go?
We're ready.
Do you want to move that out of the road? Because it doesn't look...
I can't see it anyway. Here we go.
I'll smoke all this.
You already?
Not to have to advertise.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, gentlemen, to First Minister's Questions Review. Welcome, viewers and listeners. We're back, the iRight crew. What would we used to be called 3 Men in a Blog? And once upon a time we did this on Leith FM.
Oh, and before that we were...
No.
Moan, what, 3 grumpy old... Yeah, there was a grumpy old man as well before that.
Anyway, 2007. May 2007 was when we first started reviewing First Minister's Questions.
I noticed we've got competition actually. I noticed last week somebody else is doing a review.
Oh, well, that's good. That's 8 years ago, coming up.
Long time.
8 years of reviewing it. I think we're the old codgers.
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome. And today, right, I'm just going to make a comment as we start. As predicted, the Labour Party attacked the First Minister, I think the word is attack, on the NHS. I'm quite happy to go on the record as saying I reckon that the Labour Party, not only at First Minister's Questions, but in their press releases, everything they do between now and the May general election will be about the NHS in Scotland, and what they'll be trying to do is destroy the credibility of this SNP government in running the NHS, because part of the success of the SNP in the polls has been their credibility as good governors. So I'm predicting that. Norry, what do you think about today's FMQs?
Well, just to follow on from your comment, I think the Labour Party are making a huge mistake. Because effectively, they've got the millstone of Wales round their neck, the Welsh NHS. And, any comment that's made, Sturgeon could turn around and say, oh yeah, right, but we're doing better than you did when you were in government and your present government in Wales. So it actually really, 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 really bugs me, because we need a long-term strategy for the NHS, and it needs to be agreed by any possible Scottish government. They need to sit down and actually work it out together.
I agree with you. I think it is a big challenge facing the NHS across Britain. We're challenged because of the increasing life expectancy.
Well, no, it's
not
even
treatments.
It's not even just that. It's we need councils with the social work departments hand in hand with the NHS. I mean, I've got personal experience of my mother having to sit in hospital for a week because they couldn't put a team together to deal with her. Now, there was, interestingly, there was something on 2015 last night, the BBC, with Brownsdoor, saying, there was a woman on there saying, volunteers go in, help feed your mum and dad, da-da-da. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. But even with the health experience that my own family's got, they weren't prepared to release my mother into our care. So something has to be done about that, because that was a bed taken up for 7 days unnecessarily.
I couldn't agree with you there with the volunteers. Not volunteering, because you've got volunteering, you know what you got. I mean, that is cheap. It's cheap, and it also could be dangerous.
Well,
in some senses with vulnerable people.
What the woman was talking about was people going in and helping their relatives wash.
Oh, your relatives.
Eat their meals. I mean, my experience of the NHS has been absolutely brilliant with both my mother and father, let alone my own very rare occasions when I've used it. And there's never been an issue with dehydration or anything like that. In fact, didn't realise that they had professional tea people in the hospitals going around with tea trolleys every half hour or whatever it is. I mean, I can see very little wrong with it. Having said that, neither of my parents have had to go in for a hip operation, or my dad got his cataracts done. They got them done very quickly. It's hardly life-threatening. It's all been good from my point of view, and that appears to be the point of view of the vast majority of people in Scotland. And what the Labour Party is doing at the moment is undermining the general population's view with tales that are possibly accurate in the individual case, but not accurate as a picture of the whole NHS.
You mean Project Fear again? That's all it is.
Well,
it's the same as
well,
Project Fear.
And then you ask the question, why, if it's such a mess, was it not a mess up until the 18th of September last year? I mean, it is weaponising the NHS. And if you do that, you cannot solve the problems long term. You have to sit down. You have to say, right, this is what we're going to do. This is a plan we're all agreed on. Because it's not going to take one parliament, it's going to take 3.
Well, it actually takes, I think, with the health service, it's ongoing. I mean, when you say there's always stress on a health service because it's always an ongoing with new drugs, and again, as you say, making people better. Then all you need is a really bad winter. You have umpteen people over this country this winter that can't have any heating and all the rest.
It's not even that. It's, if you want a great NHS, everybody has to agree what that looks like and everybody has to work towards it. Not criticising. I mean, I have no idea why they failed their targets, but I'll tell you what, I don't believe the Labour Party.
No. I'll tell you one of the
because
reasons.
they have weaponised it and it's all about politics. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear the truth. I want to hear solutions that work because I might end up there in the not too distant future.
But you've got, there's without a doubt more money going into, for this government, into the NHS. The last, Labour did say they wouldn't prioritise it. And one of the reasons it's crippled, and even when they're plowing this money in, is the amount of money that all these health boards, like particularly NHS with the new Royal Infirmary and that, are ploughing into the coffers of the private sector from Gordon Brown's pure financial incompetence.
Which was a
It's
Labour
millions and millions and millions. That cost about 160 million quid to build. The private sector will get over £1 billion back. That's a pretty good return.
Oh well, you may as well invest in a hospital instead of a block of flats and getting the rents from that. You'd be better off with
I think the worst thing there, what Kezia was doing was there'd be a lot of people really. It's terrifying people. I mean, it's not true.
And it's not a way to resolve the issue.
No.
That's really my thing.
Well, I'm tempted to stick to the NHS, but I think I'll just reference Ruth Davidson, the Tory. She asked about land reform, and which I said at the time, well, at least she is speaking up for her constituency.
Yeah.
In other words, the estate owners. But the shocking thing that she tried to suggest was breaking up family farms. Well, wait a minute. Excuse me. Well, breaking up farms. And
Didn't the farms that big? I thought
the land reform will, with a bit of luck, break up these giant estates of 20,000 acres plus. Farms are not bigger. Your typical farm in Scotland are very rarely bigger than 200 or 300 acres, let alone more than 1,000 acres. So I can't see.
but she had a point about
It's
food.
scaremongering.
But she had a point about food because they do know that by 2030, this country will be having to import most of its food. At the moment, it's importing huge amounts of food. Just walk into any supermarket and have a look where it all came from. It's nearly all imported.
That's the
Huge
effect,
amount.
but that's the impact of having open
I'm sorry,
markets.
I'm sorry,
Grow the food where it's cheap to
open
grow
markets.
it.
Yeah, but there are plenty of countries that
Wait a minute. I don't think you're right about that.
Do you want to subsidise the growing of food in
not
this
sure.
They
country?
say by 2030 we will,
Like they
we will
used to.
be
Are you
importing-
talking about the UK?
the UK, yeah. Oh, UK, not just Scotland. But
Because I think Scotland actually produces more. I think it is a net exporter.
yeah, because it's one of its prime, money-making efforts. I mean, with food and all the rest of it.
I might be wrong, but
So I do know,
have it in my head.
but on a UK basis, by 2030 we will be importing the majority.
But as I
And I
say,
think you're wrong.
But let me look. When we were small, and before we even joined the EU, the common market back then, all the farmers were subsidised. It was a legacy of the war.
Yeah.
And the shortage of food and having to be imported. So there really was a push following World War II to make sure as much food as possible was grown in this country. So our food was subsidised. And it's cheaper to grow tomatoes in Spain than it is in Scotland.
Well,
Make no bones about it.
Because we've got sunshine.
Well, actually, there's an area in Glasgow that used to produce basically all of Scotland's tomatoes. I see that there was
You're talking about the Clyde Valley.
well, there was an attempt to restart it that hasn't worked out.
See if we did something daft. Can I just throw something in daft? You talk about tomatoes, and you said about growing somewhere in Glasgow. Right, take
Clyde
Europe
Valley.
as a whole. Which country grows the most bananas? Iceland. Iceland.
They've got very cheap energy.
Yeah, because in the craters,
And
so
which
you go
country-
way up to Iceland.
Which country in Europe grows the most broccoli?
No idea.
Scotland.
Scotland. Oh yeah.
You wouldn't believe it.
Brussels sprouts.
Broccoli.
Brussels sprouts
Broccoli.
and Brussels
No,
sprouts.
there you go. No, I mean Fife. You want to go drive through Fife from midsummer on. You think it was covered in water. It's actually plastic, covering all the fields. The enormous fields of vegetables and these enormous machines.
Anyway, we've gone quite a bit from.
Yeah, well, to go back to your point about it not affecting farms, I'm sorry. The change in the law that basically says the eldest son does no longer inherits land could have an effect. It might, at the moment, it's unforeseen. But if you have two sons who both want to farm the land,
Daughters as well, mind.
you could end up, well, daughters as well, but
End up with all the land fragmented.
Yeah.
Well, that's historical, that idea.
Well, in Scotland it never happened because the law said the eldest. It applies specifically to land.
The land reform is in the countryside is aimed at these enormous estates owned by billionaires abroad,
I mean,
not at family farms.
I need to actually see the legislation before, because there is. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. I mean, the people I know who most of them rent off the Duke of Buccleuch who farm would love to own their own land, and if that's what's going to happen, great.
The Lib Dems come in, they didn't have Willie Rennie. I don't know whether it was a question of Willie Rennie didn't get his, once every 3 weeks he doesn't get a question, but they gave one to another
He was
Lib
standing
Dem,
in a corner with a dance cap on.
Alison
Did you see him?
McInnes, and she brought up the usual, basically the Lib Dems are always attacking Police Scotland, and so the issue, it's true, isn't it?
I think they've got to put. I mean, personally, he should go. There's no two ways about that. After what he did here in Edinburgh, the way he's actually undermined in House, he should go.
Oh, House. Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm sorry, what is it with you people? This is a new enterprise. When did Police Scotland start?
Oh, I know, but the first thing
I
he
know.
does is steam into Edinburgh.
Wait a minute. That's one of the problems with politics today. Nobody gets time to do anything. Everything's supposed to start perfect.
Yeah, but all he did was export everything the Strathclyde was doing into the rest of Scotland.
And he's discovering now
And policing
that it's
should
wrong.
Policing should be by
No.
consent.
Wait a minute, guys. What we should do is fire him and bring in somebody new.
No.
Who will then stamp whatever his version of policing is onto Police Scotland.
Okay, well the problem
who
really
will bring another set of problems.
Alright, if you're aware, think of the history. The problem is that there was a stushy, a rammy between the police authority and Stephen House before they even got established. And Stephen House was determined that he wouldn't be accountable to anybody.
No. What Stephen House wanted was exactly the same system that worked up until that point. When you were on the council, you didn't get to tell the Chief Constable how to run Lothian and Borders.
No.
They wanted to tell the Chief Constable how to run Scotland. No.
Well, I'm sorry, I know
But the
that's
police in
political
Lothian
interference.
Borders knew what was happening in Lothian and Borders. They knew all the different peculiarities because, over here, this is a different country to the west side. A totally different country.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you get this Strathclyde
And-
Met
and
fun,
in the
because he was in the
Borders-
Met as well.
And in the Borders, they complained continually about being part of the Edinburgh setup. It was Lothian and Borders. It's not going to matter how big or small your police authority is. There are going to be places that believe they should be treated differently.
But personally, I would
So-
say he's not fit for purpose.
So
for this
your
country.
argument is in fact that the law should be applied differently in different areas of Scotland.
Well, I'll come back to the NHS.
Policing is by consensus. They are peacekeepers
No, I'm
in
sorry.
this country.
I'm sorry. Your argument.
He's broken the consensus.
Your argument is quite simple. That House should either police like they did in Edinburgh, because you preferred that,
No, they police in Edinburgh like they have policed in Edinburgh. We have police in here, and it's taken decades. The whole thing works. You can see it in Glasgow quite often when they're all out and about chewing on pavements. It doesn't work.
It worked for Edinburgh.
Yeah,
it didn't work for Galashiels.
No, but it works for Edinburgh.
So the
Edinburgh.
argument you're making is based on the fact that policing should be applied differently depending on the area you're in.
Okay then.
Because they're not breaking any specific law. In what Edinburgh did, the whole point is he came in here. This is my plan, and he did. He's not fit for purpose. He should be out the door. He might be the Chief Constable of Scotland, but they should all have an input.
Phil.
We don't want a dictator.
Phil, you better watch out. There could be a knock on your door tonight.
Well, sorry, have you seen him with his speedos and all that?
Well, I'm sorry.
All right, guys. All right.
Well, bloody fascists.
Let's come back. Let's come
it's
back.
also incredibly practical.
Okay, well, let's come
I've
back.
fought fires in the
All right.
Yeah, I know.
We're not talking about the fire service. Let's come back to what we're supposedly sitting down here to talk about. Jenny Mara, who always seems to get a question,
Politician.
who's their health spokesperson, because big Bomber Bailey, I don't know what she speaks for these days, but Jenny Mara
Finance, isn't she?
Anyway, Jenny Mara is easy on the eye and is good enough. She'll always stick the dagger in. So this week it was she continued with the health service, Labour, and it was mental health. I'm not sure she made any progress with that. She attacked she took just her local Tayside health service record on mental health. And she came up with a figure which I'm not even going to quote.
It's 42% that weren't, but then again it was whacked because we're the only country apparently in the world that even bothers to worry about the kids and put a target on them.
Look, generally speaking, when it comes to mental health, a GP does not refer somebody to a consultant, a human being, for treatment straight away, unless it's a crisis, because it's very expensive. They dish out Prozac or similar. Come on, that's just the way it is.
Way and vegetate in the corner. Yeah.
It's the way it is. It's not. They're not going. I mean, if you want to see a consultant on the National Health Service for something that is not a crisis situation, well, you're going to have to wait months because they are very expensive to see a consultant. Just because you're having a bit of an anxiety attack.
I mean, the mistake Jenny Mara made for me was to go to her. Well, where was she?
Tayside, Dundee.
So Nicola could turn around and say, well, actually, in January we introduced 9 more staff.
Do you not get the?
So we're solving it.
Do you not get the impression? I mean, again, from it and the kinds of questions that. I mean, it's just panic stations. I mean, they're not even conferring with each other because somebody has an idea, just spouts it out, and it gives Nicola that. She just stands there looking so statesman-like, and without losing her head or anything, just completely back. I mean, it's.
The only other topic of relevance I think that came up was education and the question of attainment, and I was a little concerned myself at I don't know who brought it up. Elaine Murray, I think, brought it up. The question of attainment in education, and it would appear that it was Ian Gray. So it would appear. Although, it
wasn't Elaine Murray brought it up first.
Yeah, Elaine Murray brought it up, and it was a kind of follow-up perhaps like this. Yeah. I was interested in 2 points there. Nicola Sturgeon, she did say that the Scottish system was moving to that anybody who wanted to be a head teacher would have to have a master's degree, not a bachelor's degree, which is good. I would say it could be an extra. Slightly clever on the rest of it.
Well, it depends on the content of the degree, I suppose.
Obviously, fair enough. Ian Gray brought up this question of attainment advisors, and now I'm a bit concerned about that. It's as if the government is sending out Gestapo people to tell the local authorities exactly how to run their education systems. And I'm sorry, I follow. I think we need to be. Sorry, I don't like this complete centralisation of government in Edinburgh.
So you're essentially a Tory then?
No, not at all. I'm following Leslie Riddick's idea, the kind of a Nordic idea where you really have much smaller local authorities.
That's essentially what Gove wants. He wants the schools to run themselves?
Oh no, not schools.
Not to run themselves, but to be run by the local authority. They
Yeah,
have much smaller local
authorities.
authorities.
So you want local authorities to be the dictator as opposed to the government?
No, you have a national curriculum, but it is run by local accountable councils.
And they're answerable to the
do with
local
it.
people, and they have a
It's
different...
nothing to do with your national curriculum.
It's a bit...
It's to do with your standard of
But
teaching.
Yes.
it's a bit like my complaint about the centralisation of police across the country. It's like, they've got a police by consent. Do you know something about this? They're talking about the police. There's a policeman walking by. Do you know something I found interesting when I discovered about it was that the Communist Party in France were all in favour of national service. And why? Because then the army, the armed forces would represent the people, not an elite select few that elected to be professional soldiers.
I don't get this. I mean, localism's great. The problem is who then takes responsibility. Now, we've seen it. Now, I mean, Nicola announced today that all 32 councils in Scotland have accepted their
Teacher numbers.
To get part of the 51 million. Now, she stands up there week in, week out, takes criticism. Now, if she's going to be held responsible, she has to have input. The government has to have
That is, of
input.
course, the issue. I agree with you.
Now,
That's why
at the moment, local councils can decide on the level of classroom sizes up to the cap that the government puts on it. Now, how much control do you give to local councils? You can't give them all the control, because I'll tell you now what will happen.
it's ideological.
No.
Glasgow, as long as it's Labour, will do what it can to politicise education, so they can go back to the Scottish government and say, our class sizes are all full.
No, but
I think
it is
we're talking.
ideological.
No, I think we're talking across purposes here. Totally agree with you. They set the standards. When you talk about attainment, that's fine. That's just cool. Well, you have a board that goes round and checks standards and all the rest of it. The councils run the schools, but the standards are set by the government. I mean, if I was looking at, I'd go to Finland, where Finland, which has apparently the best education system on the planet, it's run by
Certainly in
local
Europe.
authorities.
Yeah.
And in places like Finland, most of that you have lots of smaller authorities. It's broken down, but they have national standards. And in 40 years, they've
Transformed their
they've
education
transformed their education
But
system
look,
and their health system.
I've got a little bit of personal input here. The place I grew up north, and my father was what was called Borough Surveyor, which was the local authority manager. He ran the town, which was a population of only 4,000. The education department was for the county, and the county had a population of only 50,000. Now, an authority of only 50,000 is comparable with, say, the Western Isles, well, even slightly bigger than the Western Isles, the Orkney Islands or the Shetland Islands. Nobody says that either of these three authorities have a bad record on running education or whatever else they run.
No, but you're not comparing light with light. In a community of that size, you can go around and kick your councillor's door in.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, it's that simple. You can find them, and if they're failing your children, you can get rid of them. Try that in Glasgow.
No.
Fair enough.
Try it in Edinburgh.
Hey, look, guys, I'm not even going to bother scoring
I'm
them
not,
today.
no.
I think we've had quite an unusual, shall we say. It's not really been a review. We've had a bit of a wee rammy, a wee opinion piece. We've all had our little say, and I'd like to say thank you very much for a very revealing conversation. It's nearly as good as what we have in the pub.
Yep.
That's what it should be.
And if you're still here and listening to what I'm saying here now, well done for sticking the course. And perhaps we might be back next week.
You want to know your scores?
You want scores?
Of course you want a score.
All right.
I don't know. Well,
I can't be bothered.
No, can I just-
Sometimes we miss out.
now because Willie's not there and I can't say no.
There you go. Then. Thanks very much. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
No, it's just. I know what you mean about. House was a money-saving effort. That's